Have you ever felt like you are running as fast as you can, but the ground beneath you is moving just as quickly in the opposite direction? It is a common feeling in this year of 2026, where the world seems to get more expensive every single morning we wake up. You work 40 or 50 hours a week, you earn a decent income, and you manage to set some money aside. Yet that feeling of true financial security remains frustratingly out of reach. For many of us, especially those who have been in the workforce for decades, there is a nagging fear that we are simply not doing enough to protect our future. We see the headlines about inflation, the rising costs of healthcare, and the uncertainty of social security, and it can feel like trying to fill a bucket that has a hole in the bottom. But what if I told you that there is one specific number that completely transforms your relationship with money forever? It is a number that separates those who will always struggle from those who build real, lasting wealth that survives any economic storm. That number is $100,000. Reaching your first $100,000 is, without a question, the most brutal and difficult financial milestone you will ever face. It is the point where most people give up, convinced that the system is rigged or that investing simply does not work for regular people like them. However, once you cross that threshold, something almost magical begins to happen within the laws of mathematics. Your money starts working harder for you than you have ever worked for your money. Today we are going to peel back the curtain and look at the cold, hard truth of why this specific milestone changes everything. We will explore the psychological trap that keeps millions of people stuck in mediocrity and the exact moment when the momentum shifts in your favor. By the time we are finished, you will understand why the legendary Charlie Munger famously said that you must get your hands on that first $100,000, even if it means walking everywhere and not eating anything that was not bought with a coupon. Let us start by acknowledging a story that many of you might find deeply familiar. Imagine a man in his mid-40s, let us call him David, who has worked a stable job for 20 years. David makes a good living, but after paying the mortgage, the car loans, and the costs of raising his children, his savings account never seems to grow past $20,000. Every time he makes progress, a car repair or a home emergency seems to pull him back to where he started. David represents millions of hard-working individuals who are caught in what we call the savings trap. They are doing everything right on paper. They are budgeting and being responsible, but they are not seeing the exponential growth they were promised. The reason David is struggling is not because he is lazy or unintelligent, but because he is in the phase of contribution dominance. When you are starting from zero, every single dollar in your account is a direct result of your physical labor and your sacrifice. If you save $500 a month and invest it at a 7% return, after 1 year, you have $6,000 in contributions, but only about $200 in interest. That $200 feels like an insult compared to the massive effort it took to save those $6,000. At this stage, compound interest is practically invisible, like a tiny seed buried deep underground that shows no signs of life above the surface. This is the danger zone where most people lose faith. They see the tiny returns and decide that they might as well spend the money on a new truck or a vacation because the long-term path seems too slow to matter. But what the mathematics of wealth tells us is that this initial grind is actually the process of building your foundation. Every dollar you save in those early years is not just money. It is a worker that you are hiring to serve you for the rest of your life. The reality is that it takes approximately 7.8 years to save your first $100,000 if you are putting away $10,000 per year at a 7% return. That is nearly 8 years of disciplined grinding while seeing relatively small returns on your balance. But here is where the world flips on its axis. Once you hit that $100,000 mark, the time it takes to save your next $100,000 drops significantly. Instead of 8 years, it takes only about 5.1 years to reach $200,000. To get from $200,000 to $300,000 takes only 3.8 years. And the jump from $900,000 to $1 million happens in only about 1.5 years. This is not magic, and it is not a secret known only to the elite. It is simply how the curve of a snowball works. The first few rotations of a snowball are difficult because the ball is small and it picks up very little extra snow. But as the ball grows, its surface area increases, and each rotation gathers more snow than all the previous rotations combined. At $100,000, if you earn a 10% return, which is the historical average of the S&P 500, you are making $10,000 a year just by sitting still. In the year 2026, $10,000 is a significant amount of capital that can cover a large portion of your annual housing or grocery costs. Think about that for a moment. Your money is now earning as much in a year as a part-time job would pay. But it never gets tired, it never asks for a raise, and it never gets sick. This is the first major tipping point where your investments earn more in the typical year than many people are able to contribute from their paychecks. As you move past this milestone, the psychological transformation is just as powerful as the mathematical one. When you have $100,000 invested, you stop seeing the world through the lens of scarcity, and you begin to develop an abundance mindset. You no longer feel like a slave to your employer, because you know you have a financial cushion that gives you options and leverage. You can make decisions based on what is best for your family and your future, rather than making decisions out of desperation to pay next month's bills. This sense of control is the true definition of freedom. However, we must address the unique challenges of the current economic environment in 2026. We have seen how inflation can erode the purchasing power of a traditional savings account. This is why simply saving money in a bank is no longer a viable strategy for long-term security. You must be an owner of assets, whether that is through low-cost index funds, high-quality real estate, or productive businesses. For those of you who feel like you are starting late, perhaps you are in your 50s and you worry that you have missed the boat, I want you to listen closely. The best time to start was 20 years ago, but the second best time is today. Even if you cannot reach $1 million, reaching that first $100,000 will still provide a massive safety net that the average person simply does not have. The bar to be above average is actually quite low. Did you know that the median retirement savings for households approaching their 60s is still less than $200,000? If you can reach the $100,000 mark, you are already ahead of half the population. So how do we accelerate the journey to this critical number? Strategy number 1 is the optimization of your income. In today's digital world, there are more opportunities than ever to develop side income streams or to upgrade your professional skills. Cutting back on small expenses like lattes is fine, but you cannot shrink your way to greatness. You must find ways to expand your earning potential so that you can shovel more fuel into your investment engine. Strategy number 2 is the avoidance of lifestyle creep. As you earn more money, the temptation to buy a bigger house or a flashier car will be immense. But remember, every dollar you spend on a depreciating asset is a dollar that cannot work for you in the market. Wealthy people stay wealthy by living like they are poorer than they actually are, until their passive income can pay for their luxuries. Strategy number 3 is the use of automated systems. Do not rely on your willpower to save money every month. Human beings are hardwired for instant gratification. Set up automatic transfers from your paycheck to your investment accounts so that the money is gone before you even have a chance to think about spending it. As we look toward the future, understand that building wealth is a marathon, not a sprint. There will be years when the market goes down and your balance looks smaller than it did the year before. During those times, do not panic. Remind yourself that you are buying shares of the world's most profitable companies at a discount. The people who become truly wealthy are the ones who can remain calm when everyone else is losing their heads. Once you reach $100,000, you will have built the mental muscle of discipline and patience. You will have proven to yourself that you are capable of delaying gratification for the sake of a better tomorrow. This confidence will carry you through the second and third $100,000 much more easily than the first. You will begin to see opportunities that were invisible to you when you were broke. You will have the capital to take calculated risks that can further accelerate your progress. Remember that every wealthy person you admire had to cross this same threshold. They all had to deal with the slow, agonizing years of the first 50,000 and the first 75,000. They did not get there by luck. They got there by being more persistent than the person standing next to them. In 2026, the gap between those who understand money and those who do not is growing wider every day. By committing yourself to reaching this first major milestone, you are choosing to be on the right side of that gap. You are choosing to provide a legacy of security for your children and grandchildren. You are choosing to live a life defined by purpose rather than by debt. Take a look at your finances today and calculate your current net worth. If you are far from 100,000, do not be discouraged. Be excited, because today is the day you begin the most important journey of your life. Set your goal, build your system, and do not stop until you reach that number, because once you do, the world will never look the same again. You will finally have a machine that works for you while you sleep. You will finally have the peace of mind that comes from knowing you are prepared for whatever the future holds. The journey to your first $100,000 is the hardest thing you will ever do. But it is also the most rewarding. Keep your eyes on the horizon and stay the course. Your future self is already there, waiting to thank you for the choices you are making today. Wealth is not about having a lot of money. It is about having a lot of options. And those options start with that first $100,000. Start today, stay consistent, and watch as the power of compounding turns your small efforts into a lifetime of freedom.